Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex or Nuzz here. Before I start this video, I do want to preface this by saying I'm not a game developer. I have no experience in that area. I'm merely coming in this video with the topic from a player's perspective because I've seen a lot of comments about this recently. Again, I'm not a game developer and I definitely could not do that job. I just kind of wanted to give my perspective and also be as fair as possible. I think this is a pretty fair video, so I just wanted to share some things. If you guys have not noticed, Jagex has nerfed quite a few things recently that have caught a lot of people by surprise, but it isn't new to just this year. There have been a lot of nerfs in the past year or two that have something really interesting in common that we're going to go over on in a minute. Now, the main reason for this video is one, I've been getting a lot of messages from my friends. We've been talking about this. It's been a big topic, and a lot of the comments I've gotten about nerfs over the past year and how a lot of people get really upset when all these nerfs happen. You can see all these comments here. I tend to get them quite a bit, and some people citing it's the reason they actually quit the game, which is a bit much, but it's definitely something that I see quite often in my comments. If I make a video and anything has been nerfed or talking about things that have been just nerfed or changed. Now, starting off, I think it's reasonable to say that a lot of things, whether they're abilities or items, do deserve to be nerfed in some way. Sometimes things come into the game and they aren't as intended. It happens in every game, every MMO, and it's just part of it. But I think there are a few problems that I see happening with these nerfs that really make them sting a lot more than other games. Now, first, let's go over some of the nerfs that have happened and see if you notice a theme with any of these nerfs. Now, in December 2020, Greater Ricochet was added to the game, and immediately it was considered one of, if not the best basic ability in the game. Extremely overpowered, most people realized within the first day or two that this ability was massively OP and would probably be nerfed soon. It was almost a running joke with my friends in when would this be nerfed, how soon would it be nerfed, oh it'd be nerfed next Monday, oh no it's definitely being nerfed next Monday. However, months and months and months passed, and a lot of people held off on buying Greater Ricochet because they wanted to see if it would be nerfed, or they expected it to be nerfed and didn't want to waste their money. I was one of these people as well. After 10 months, nearing a full year, Greater Ricochet was nerfed, albeit a little bit, not completely destroyed, but it did have its power reduced, and this was almost a full year later. Now I'll move on to present day. Croesus, Runescape's first skilling boss, introduced into the game on September 27, 2021. A boss that actually had its unique rate slightly buffed about 1 month after release. So they balanced it about a month after the release, and well, now a full year plus, or around 15 months since release, Croesus had a big nerf to XP rates for Hunter and also common drops, and then a complete change to the contribution thresholds for unique items. Again, boss released in late 2021, nerfed the drop tables in early 2023. Next, Shattered Worlds, a minigame which has been in the game since 2017, was used to a meta using the Feeling Pumped modifier, which existed for many years. However, when the dragon special attacks were updated, players were able to get very high XP rates using these special attacks along with the Feeling Pumped modifier. Now, I would have expected at this time for dragon specs maybe to be changed a little, nerfing an item, close to when it comes out. But instead, Feeling Pumped itself was nerfed in a hotfix in early December, noted as a temporary fix, and 3 months later we haven't seen any update on that yet, but it did make the Shattered World minigame a lot worse. Now, do you notice a theme here? I want to say again, I don't think I have too much of a problem with some of the nerfs themselves. I think some of the issues I see is a lot of players commenting on my videos, or a lot of my friends who are really invested into RuneScape 3 saying that these nerfs come so far out that it's just weird. Like Greater Ricochet, everyone knew just how OP it was from the start, and it took almost a year to nerf it, meaning most players felt absolutely safe to buy it if it wasn't nerfed for that long. And I understand that, again, from Jagex's perspective, that I don't know how the data collection works. I don't know how long it takes to figure out if something needs to be nerfed or not. I understand Jagex really needs to understand the problem before they can nerf or change something, but I've never really seen nerfs happen happen this long after release in other games. Now this video isn't really a critique on the nerfs themselves, but the weird state that it creates, not knowing if something you purchase or spend all your money on could be nerfed even after a year of it being in the game, for instance. Jagex doesn't have a precedent for how long something takes to be nerfed. If we knew most things, you know, Jagex needed 3-4 months to nerf, most people might hold off on buying something that seemed overpowered for 3 or 4 months, or they may risk it. We know, hey, this is when Jagex usually nerfs things, and this is when we can kind of, you know, wait to see. But, you know, sometimes they might nerf things within 2 months, sometimes 12 months, sometimes 2 years. It kind of is just all over the place. So I kind of want to bring this up as an example. If I had bought the Bow of the Last Guardian on Zammy release, or a month after, I should not really be one to complain about a nerf if it's nerfed. This is a new item that's subject to change. Prices will also drop since it's so new as well, and most people expect that and hold off on it. Now, nerfing an item a month or two after release is pretty fine to me as a player because, of course, some things just don't come into the game as planned, and it takes a bit, I'd assume, to gather the information to nerf it. But I think the problem lies is when players are spending or investing a ton of money, and that money is actually their time, into a thing, and it's nerfed years later. Like, I just bought the Bow of the Last Guardians a month ago. It's the most expensive item I've ever bought, and it's been out for almost 8 or 9 months at this point. Now, if it's nerfed soon, I could see a lot of players would feel very cheated. Now, if you nerfed the bow back in August, I think most people would have held off on this new item. I think most people would have held off on buying this. The others that did buy it probably understood the risk and had a lot of money to blow through. I'll bring up an example that doesn't quite fit perfectly since it's not an MMORPG like Runescape, but it's an example of some other nerfs in games that I've played, just speaking from my own experience. In a game called Hearthstone, a multiplayer card game, once a new expansion comes out, nerfs are usually rolled out weeks, if not a month later, which I think is very fair, if not actually pretty fast for nerfs to take place in a game. However, they also do something interesting where after they nerf a card, you're actually given a full few weeks to be able to refund that nerf card for the total amount of dust you paid to craft it. So even in Hearthstone, they get out nerfs relatively fast. You would think that's fine in itself, but they also offer the players a refund on their nerf cards. Now, I don't think this would really be feasible in RuneScape. There's an economy and a whole different system, but this is one of the main comparisons I had experience with when it comes to things being nerfed, so I thought I'd give that as another kind of game's perspective and how they do nerfs. And I think my main comparison or analogy here is it feels like something will come out, be very overpowered, and be in the game for so long that the entire economy, meta, and players adjust to the overpowered thing as it is. It just becomes normal. For example, let's say Crit Bloom. Players now, after a year of this being released, or almost a year and a half, have adjusted to this. Most players have bought it. It's become very relevant in the game. If that's to be nerfed completely, which again in a vacuum, I think a lot of these items, I don't actually disagree that they don't need nerfed or need changes, but if that is to be nerfed like this long later after everyone has bought it, adjusted to it, learned to PVM with it, built around it, I think it's just something that kind of frustrates a lot of players. Not really sure if there's a right answer to this. For instance, if something else is released and it makes Crit Bloom even more overpowered, they might feel the need to nerf Crit Bloom. Now, if it was me, I would argue you should nerf the thing that you just put out. Nerfing the early items, I feel, are much better, but I sometimes feel like some of these problems are just allowed to sort of linger, and then eventually it's like, okay, we kind of have to nerf it now, but it's been so long that it frustrates a lot of players, and I'm just not sure what the right answer is here. But just being a player who has bought items that have been nerfed, or from some of the comments I've gotten on my videos about different things being nerfed, I just think this was an interesting kind of perspective to give on it, and I definitely don't have all the right answers, but this is something that I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, and maybe in the future, if I can, maybe I'll be able to talk to like a JMod or something and get their thoughts on how it works. I'm not actually sure who is in charge of like, you know, looking at things that need to be potentially changed or nerfed, but I think that'd be interesting to do possibly on the channel in the future. But yeah, I just really wanted to give my perspective here, and kind of be as fair as I could. The most frequently commented things on my videos, whenever a nerf happens, whenever anything is changed, a lot of people are very upset, and a lot of them are more upset rather than the actual nerf, but because it has come so much later than the release. I think that is the main thing I'm trying to get, you know, across with this video is, but I wish they happened Even if it's not on a faster basis, maybe just a more consistent and transparent one.